I'm going to take you through a series of slides here explaining the major legislation that is being considered in the State House. And as you'll see at the end, I have a list of all the education-related ones, and it's several pages long. But these are the primary ones that we want to deal with tonight. House Bill 1002 has been nicknamed the Charter School Bill. House 103, scholarships or vouchers. House Bill 1260 deals with insurance for school employees. House Bill 1585 deals with employee dues deductions and some right-to-work issues. Senate Bill 575 deals with collective bargaining, among many, many other things. A very complicated bill. Senate Bill 1 deals with teacher evaluation and performance pay. House Bill 1002 was authored by Representative Bosma and Representative Benning. It establishes a charter school board under the direction of the Indiana Department of Education for the purpose of sponsoring charter schools. The state superintendent would appoint 4 members, and the governor would appoint 3 members to this board, and then the governor appoints the chair. Notice that there is no mandate that there be an educator on that board. The charter school board would establish a process for the approval of charters. And I will take a second to explain a charter. A charter is a document that is submitted to request the creation of a school. And it is a public school. It's funded with public dollars. But you create a charter, and if it's accepted, then you have your own charter school. So that's what they're talking about. This board would establish the process for that. This bill would allow the mayors of second-class cities to establish a charter. A second-class city is defined as one between a population of 35,000 to 599. Kokomo and Lafayette both fall into that category. It allows private colleges to authorize charters. Currently, Ball State University, I believe, is the only university that's allowed to charter. The mayor of Indianapolis, and I'm not sure, there may be one other college. This bill allows for the acquisition of underutilized buildings in school corporations. The chartering agency may acquire the space for $1 each year for 10 years. The lease can be extended for 10 years. The school corporation must maintain the buildings. That's the local public school corporation must maintain the building, not the charter school. Vacant and partially utilized facilities building mandatory requirement to lease and maintain. That's an expense, again, back to the public school, not the charter school that's leasing it for $1 a year. Charters have first right of renewal, and the acquisition for the use of a charter school takes priority over any other use by the releasing school corporation. Just an example, if you have an elementary school sitting empty in the school corporation, and the school's long-term plan is to possibly use it to, if the state mandates and funds all-day kindergarten or preschool, the school corporation would have that building available to use. If the charter is in there paying their $1 a year, the school corporation cannot get it back and would be forced to build a new facility because they can't revoke that lease once it's given to that charter school. No district or legal settlement, which means there's no requirement to live within the district. Anybody can go to that charter school from any place and reap the benefits of the tax dollars of the people who do live in this corporation who are paying for the upkeep of the building. You can go to any charter in the state, and the basic tuition support and transportation is billed back to the original school district. It's tuition support and transportation. That means if the charter school incurs transportation costs, the local school corporation has to fund that out of their transportation fund in the public system. Many local transportation funds are currently suffering. If the charter bill passes, they will have a pro rata amount to charge back to the school district of origin. And I would say it's without question that most of the local transportation funds are suffering. And with the gas prices I saw on the way here today, it's going to get worse. There is no restriction on the number of virtual charters. A virtual school is an electronic school. It doesn't exist as an entity. It's all done over the internet electronically. The virtual school can get 90 cents on the dollar, or 90% of the average tuition support. Entitled to receive funding from the state, and the money is coming off the top, as in no new money. So the money would be coming from monies that would currently have gone to public education at the tune of about $5,200 per student. Charter school credits have to be accepted by other schools, cannot nullify the criteria. All interest is canceled for charter schools on advances or loans from the Common School Fund. Local school corporations, however, must pay the interest on their loans. There's also an extension on the current moratorium on charter school repayment of their principal amount for 2 years. This provision does not apply to the local school corporations. Allows 50% of the teachers in a charter school to not be licensed. This percentage may be increased with Indiana Department of Education approval. 50% of the teachers could be non-licensed. All they have to have is a bachelor's degree in a related area to the subject that they're going to teach, but no pedagogical training and no license. A school board can vote to convert to a charter. 51% of the parents of children in the school can vote to turn their school into a charter. No one can stop that and excludes teacher input. An increase in charter school funding will decrease the general education funding even more. Loss of local transportation funds and decreased tuition support for the local school corporation. No additional funding is provided for charters, and it comes from the local school corporation, state distribution, and tax levies. There is no new money being put into this bill to back this. It's all coming from dollars that are already out there that the public schools are already needing more of. Maintenance and repair of the buildings is the responsibility of the local school corporation if the charter leases part of a building. If part of your building is vacant, they have the right to come in and lease part of it, and then the school is responsible for the upkeep on the entire building. The current, I'm going to switch bills here, excuse me. House Bill 1003, this has been nicknamed the voucher bill. The governor calls it scholarships, we call it vouchers. The current tax credit program for contributions made to scholarship granting organizations benefiting private schools would get as much as $10 million per year in tax money, up from the current $2.5 million, and would gradually rise to an 80% tax credit for donors by 2014, increased from the current 50%. Let me translate that. If you contribute money as a private citizen to a organization that grants scholarships to private schools, you get a tax credit. The state's going to put up to $10 million into that fund to pay for the tax credit. But it gradually increases. If they use 90% of the $10 million in a year, then the amount jumps up another $10 million the next year. So then it's 100 or 10, another extra 10 million, or excuse me, another 10 million. And it just keeps growing, and it will be eventually, you will get an 80% tax credit for donations by 2014, which will make donating to a private school a very lucrative deal. A tax credit, again, is not the same as a tax exemption or tax deduction. A tax credit is a dollar for dollar. It's a very, very good thing for a taxpayer if you get them, but we believe it gives a private school a very unfair advantage. We don't have the same type for public schools. The new voucher program would give a family of 4 making less than $40,793 a voucher for $4,500 for a private school tuition, and a family of 4 making less than $81,586 a voucher of $27,58 for private school tuition. This allows parents to take money from the taxpayer and send it to a private parochial school. And I will speak for myself and the ISTA. We strongly have a concern about that. If it's constitutionality for one, the separation of church and state is another. And I say all of that with no negative consequences for private schools. I'm a great fan of private schools. I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem with tax money being used to cross the line. And that's where the issue is. We're very concerned that we're setting up a system that's not fair to the taxpayers and not what the founding fathers of this state and the writers of our Constitution intended. The credit would be available for students who have been in a public school for the previous 2 semesters. So that's a significant statement, because if your child is currently going to All Saints, you don't qualify. Your child has to drop out of All Saints and come back to the public school for 2 semesters and then get the tuition or the voucher and then can go back to All Saints. So it's really going to play havoc on on that private school system. If the parents go after those vouchers, they're going to have to unenroll their children and put them in public schools, which is going to increase the need for teachers in the public schools short term. It's going to play a big mess in all of that. There are no dollar amount limits except on the number of seats available in private schools, which is estimated to be 20,000. So that's saying if 90% of the kids in public school went to private school, that's fine. There's no limit on the number of people that can take the voucher. It's only limited by how many empty seats there are in those schools. And I'm guessing that the for-profits will quickly add more seats as fast as they can find them to get that voucher money. There's no provision in the bill to address students who enroll in a private school and then return to the public school during the academic year. Does the private school keep the money? As of today, yes. House Bill 1003, fiscal note for the Legislative Services Agency, LSA, estimates that the reduction in the tuition support for public schools would be $5.5 million per year for every 1,000 students who transfer from public to private. Multiply that figure by the potential 20,000 seats, potential transfers, and that total amount could potentially transfer from public schools to private schools, about $110 million.